The warriors of ancient Egypt, long before the empires rose in Greece or Rome, Egyptian warriors were defending one of the most advanced civilizations in the world. They had armor that was linen or leather, and it was made that way so that they could have, they wouldn't have their speed restricted. The leather and the linen was layered for flexibility to give the warriors full use of their weapons and full use of their bodies. The elite troops had bronze corsets that they had for protection along with the leather and the linen. And they had, their armor would give them an advantage in battle because they were able to be incredibly fast, and the armor was made to deflect the shield or the sword and the spear, and it did a great job at that. The weapons that they had is called the khopesh, which is a curved sword. That's one of the weapons. They also had spears, they had daggers, and they carried shields. But this sword was a very interesting one because it was almost like a sickle type sword, and it had a hook on it so that they could grab shields and pull them down, and they could also grab body parts when they're fighting. And this helped the ancient Egyptians to be a lethal fighting force, along with the discipline and the way that they conducted their battles, utilizing the weapons and the metal that they had that was embedded in the weapons and embedded in the armor. They were able to rise to prominence and dominate the region for many millennia. They also had the chariots. Now the chariots were invented in 1550 to 1070 BC. The Egyptians, they rode in the battle on those two-wheel chariots, which gave them an incredible advantage because in that chariot you could have, the person driving the chariot, and then they also would have a person with a bow and arrow on the side of them, or carrying spears, and in some cases carrying both. And in some cases they also would have 3 people in the chariot. But they would be able to move very, very quickly on the battlefield. So usually when you're riding a horse, it's kind of hard. I know Genghis Khan's guys were able to ride from horseback and fire arrows, but it's difficult to fire an arrow accurately when you're trying to ride a horse. Now, if you're in a chariot and one person's driving, the other person, all they have to do is, try to maintain their aim. That made them a lethal and quick reacting fighting force, which gave them an incredible advantage on the battlefield. You take that in addition to their weapons and their armor and their tactics, and the ancient Egyptians, as we see throughout history, were able to dominate and become a very strong fighting force. The warriors, they trained from their youth in multiple fighting styles using multiple weapons, which made them even more lethal because by the time they got to the age as a grown man, they had already spent years honing their skills and becoming lethal weapons. One of the most famous battles of ancient Egypt was the Battle of Kadesh, which was 1274 BC, and that was Ramses II. He faced the Hittites, and that battle was one of the first recorded battles that it ended